Are you avoiding using FamilySearch because you're frustrated that people can change your trees? Well, you need to stop that, and you need to use FamilySearch. We're going to talk about that next. Howdy, I'm Devin Noel Lee with Family History Fanatics, and I'm here with James Tanner, who has two fantastic blogs that we'll be sure to put in the description below. But you wear a ton and a half of hats as well, right?
Yeah, a lot.
And so he's going to talk to us about why FamilySearch isn't your problem.
Okay, so my basic statement on the subject is this. FamilySearch is the solution, not the problem. And I try to repeat that as much as I can. I get too many people who reject the program simply on the basis of the fact that they have some kind of superficial view, or even they're involved in it and they find out that their great-great-great-great-grandmother or whatever in the 1600s is being changed. I recur to those people as revolving door ancestors. Now, in order to understand how this works and why this is really not an issue, as much as you would think it would be an issue, you need to understand a little bit of the background of the family tree. The family tree is an accumulation of information that began to be contributed to the predecessors of what we now call FamilySearch during the past 150 years approximately. And at the time, much of that information was done, as it is still being done, unfortunately, individually by people who do not communicate to others. And so what's happened is that, let's say, for example, that you were living back in the early days of genealogy in the, say, early 1900s, 1920. You could go and do your searching, and there would be very limited ways. You could write to your relatives, you could accumulate your records, but you might not know that 100 miles away in another city, one of your relatives was doing exactly the same thing. And that's what happened. All of these people individually, and they contributed these records to the organization of FamilySearch. And unfortunately, for many reasons, which we didn't get all of that history, all of that was dumped into the family tree.
Okay.
Okay, so what you have is literally thousands of contributors who never collaborated. Now, the tree lets you collaborate. Now you can talk and communicate instantly almost with anyone who is contributing to the tree. And what we saw originally was a massive amount of duplication. Now,
yes, that's another frustration. Not only did people edit, but all the duplicates and making sense of it all.
Yeah, and so the original tree, when they seeded it, there were approximately 1.3 to 1.4 billion individual records in the family tree. It went from about 1.3 billion down to 1.1 billion people. Almost 200 million people were removed from the tree merely because they were duplicates. They merged.
But that's just the first couple months.
That was just the surface of what was in the tree.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the point? The point is that I've been working on the tree since day one. As we work as a family, we've got many members of my immediate children and their spouses who collaborate with us. As we work on the family tree, we have basically solidified it back 6 generations.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying we never see any changes, but we see minor things, people adding sources. No one changes any of the major things. Why? There's 3 factors. One is we've sourced all that information. We have records that support every date, every person, every individual thing. And so what are you going to do? You're going to argue with the sources. That's fine. You can, I suppose. And then the second part of that is we watch everybody. In Family Tree, there is a little star on every individual that you can click. And if you click that, it's called watching. It will then turn to unwatch, which is not a word, but it's now a word. And then we could watch that person, and once a week, FamilySearch will send you a list of all the changes to all the people that you're watching.
But if I have a huge tree of like 80,000 people, should I watch 80,000 people?
No. Why would you do that?
I wouldn't, but I wanted to hear it from you. which people would you watch?
Okay. I referred a moment ago, I referred to people that were called revolving door people. These are the people that are going to change. Okay, so who's a revolving door people? The prime example right now in my portion of the family tree, understand this is not our tree. It's not your tree, it's not my tree. I share my portion of it with all of my other relatives, all my hundreds of thousands of tanners and other people that are out there. So we're obviously not all going to agree. Well, one of the people, for example, that is a revolving door ancestor is a man by the name of Francis Cook, who came over on the Mayflower.
So it's those early people that cause us problems.
Yeah, and Francis Cook probably has, he can have anywhere from a dozen or 2 dozen changes a week to 50 to 60 changes in a week. Okay, why would you change this person? And the answer is because there are thousands and tens, maybe tens of thousands of people who have this individual in their own personal owned family tree on whatever program. Your grandmother has this information that she's passed down to you, and of course she was perfect and she had everything correct. And so you go on and you look at Francis Cook and you say, oh, I'm going to change it to mine. The point being that you don't go to the sources. You don't look at the person and see what people have put in there that substantiates the information that's there. Those changes are coming from all these extra little family tree people out there. The classic example is the person who has the records that they received from their whoever it was, the aunt, the uncle, whoever it was in their family who did the genealogy. And they are told that they did exhaustive research, or that they had a professional genealogist help them do it, or any of these things like that. Unfortunately, I would guess, in my case, if you look at this, if you analyze the changes, which I have done, exhaustively. In fact, I'm going to write a blog about what are the changes, what's actually being changed, and what kinds of things are changing.
So like the categories of changes people make.
Right,
I like that.
The categories of changes. If you look at the categories of changes, there's one common substrate to that, and that is none of them have sources. I have seen literally thousands of changes. Every time I just quickly check to see if there's a source. If there's no source, the change disappears. The advantage of the family tree is that it is changeable. And the fact that you tell me that you don't like it because it be changeable just tells me that your genealogy that you have personally is totally inaccurate. And
that's a pretty strong statement.
And basically has a lot of flaws. Okay, let me give you an example of what's happened, because I can demonstrate this perfectly.
Absolutely.
Just recently, over the last 2 years, MyHeritage has been developing the ability to synchronize family trees for people who have free access through the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So those people, there's millions of them, have access to putting their tree into MyHeritage. The website, the feature that was made actually public this week allows people to synchronize their tree. That means I can bring over, and in this case I brought over 8 generations of the FamilySearch Family Tree, all the memories, all the sources, everything went into MyHeritage. Now MyHeritage has a very sophisticated called consistency checker that goes through and checks. That's the same thing as the little red icons in only much expanded.
Okay, so the red icon is the data problem warnings on FamilySearch.
Right. So the data problems, I had 721 data problems. This is the information that I've been working on for like 30 years, and I immediately have 721 errors in my family tree on FamilySearch.
That's a blow to your self-esteem.
Yeah, get it. I'm the guy they rely on to come up and figure all this stuff out, and it's a mess. Okay, so what's the point here? Well, the point is that let's make this analogy, because I think this is a good analogy. If you were interested in gardening, okay, you're going to have a garden, and so you go out in your backyard where you're going to have your garden, and you buy some packages of seeds down at the local hardware store, and you open the package of seeds and you throw them out on the ground, and that's it. You say, okay, I'm waiting for my garden. What's going to happen with that garden?
My garden doesn't grow.
The analogy here is that's the person who just builds a family tree from whatever information that they pick up. Okay. So what do you really have to do? Well, you're going to have to maintain that. And even if you prepare the ground, do the research, if you plant the right crops and you do the research to know what you need to plant, and then you let it grow and you water it and you do it, what is the one component that is common with all gardens?
Weeds.
Weeds.
And they don't stay away.
And they don't stay away. Okay. So the family tree is a tree. It's a living, growing thing. And what you do is you have to water it. You have to weed it. You have to maintain it. It isn't just going to maintain itself.
Right.
And if you think of the changes as being a burden on you, then you're not a gardener. The gardeners are the people who recognize that this is simply part of the process of having a living, breathing, accurate tree. What's the accurate end of the tree? It's the fruit, it's the vegetables, it's the things we want. When we get through gardening this tree, we're going to have product. We're going to have something that's worth eating, worth using, and worth looking at. Now, for those people that, like me, that have been working on it forever, those things, it's already evident. We use it. We rely on it. We know that I know if one of my daughters goes in and changes one of our ancestors, that she's looking at a parish register, or she's looking at a record. She's not just doing that because she wants to change, to play around with the tree.
So what I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is the way to fix the tree is to make sure you're relying on quality sources.
Absolutely.
Aunt Ethel and her paper tree is not a quality source. Now, unless she wrote about her own child, right. But if she's talking 4 generations past, not a quality source. So we want to look at quality sources and attach them to the tree. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. And then to understand that with each generation, it's so obvious, you don't want to say it, but the obvious thing is that they double every generation. It's 2, 4, 8, 60, 16, 32, 64, etc. That's also increases exponentially the number of descendants all those people had.
Right.
And so when you start jumping into the tree and going back and saying, oh, I'm going to start research on somebody who lived in the 1600s, you've got potentially of tens of thousands of people who may be also trying to do research on that person. How do you not expect that it's going to change?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And so the issue here is focus on the immediate tree. If people will not, and I would say close to almost 90%, almost uniformly the people that are complained about. Now, what about the people who say, well, it's my mother, they keep changing her date,
Yeah, that was going to be my question, because I just had somebody ask me just this week of, people keep changing my grandma's, her name, her birth date, who's she married to. And she's like, I've given up. If they can't keep my grandma straight, why should I be in that tree? So tell me, what do you say to those folks? Okay,
well, the issue there is communication. The tree, the family tree, the FamilySearch Family Tree, has an internal messaging system built into it. And you can send a message and you can receive messages in the tree. Now, granted, there's 2 categories of people that we don't deal with. We don't deal with crazy, and we don't deal with people who are less intelligent to the point of not understanding what they're doing. Okay, so we don't deal with crazy, and we don't deal with stupid.
Would stubborn fall in one of those categories?
Well, if you add stubborn to one of those 2 categories, then you've got a real problem, because you've got somebody who's, and you have to understand that, and I'm not, listen, my family history is that we lived with people who had dementia and Alzheimer's for many, many years. Right. So I know about this. Right. But I also know that we have people with those problems who are on the family tree. And so we really need to begin to communicate and understand that, yes, we do have these problems. And an analogy back to the garden You can get gophers. You can get, and we live in Provo, and we have a whole herd of deer that live in our front yard. I mean, usually we can count 9. There's a whole thing. And
we had rabbits in Iowa, and they're a problem with our strawberry plant.
Yeah, well, these deer eat everything that they like, and that's flowers, and that's vegetables, and that's anything else you want to grow. So the only thing you can do there is build a fence. And that's what you have to do on the family tree. If you have somebody like your grandmother, then you need to build the fence around it. And where's the fence come from? Okay, let's explain the fence.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. He's reading my mind. This is pretty scary.
So how are you going to build a fence around somebody like your grandmother who's getting changed by some relative who is in some category that I don't want to discriminate against? It's not like we're trying to feel bad about people who have disabilities, but they are an actual fact. We have to deal with it. Okay, so how do we deal with this? The watching. First of all, the family tree is basically a last man standing organization.
So we need to be hastening their demise?
No. but it is, you talk about stubborn. How about if I'm more stubborn than they are? And that's where we say. So, for instance, you may, out there in the world, you may have run into that section of the family tree maintained by the Tanners. You may be one of the people that may have made a change, and you may have been one of them that got the 3 or 4 page explanation of why they shouldn't be doing that. And here's how I do it. This is the way it works. I maintain a thing called Google Docs, and Google lets me take notes on the computer, which means I'm on there, my phone, my iPad, my everything. So I have all of this stuff. And so I have got some canned responses.
Okay.
And they're not just whatever. And it starts out like this. Thank you for your interest in the Tanner family, or in whatever family we're talking about. By the way, you probably need to be aware that there are a group of family members who have spent years doing research on this particular line and sourced all of that. We note that you added an item without checking any of the sources that were there originally and didn't add an original source. Do you have a source for the change that you made? If you do not have a source, please, if you have one, please respond and let us know how or why you made the change. Otherwise, we're going to change it back. And if you change it, we will keep changing it until the end of time. So please, I know. Anyway, we try to be as polite as possible, but in the summary of it is, back off. You're not going to beat us.
Awesome. Well, this is a lot of great information, but you need to tell us about how people can get a hold of you on the blog or some of the other projects that you work on. So let's go ahead and cover that to wrap up the video.
Okay. The major project that we're involved in at the moment is called the Family History Guide. The Family History Guide. It is the training partner for FamilySearch. It is linked from FamilySearch and from LDS.org. It is a structured, sequenced educational tool. Includes instructions for the 4 major partners for FamilySearch, for my Ancestry, MyHeritage, and Find My Past. It contains step-by-step instructions on how to do research, how to become. Basically, it has activities for families. One of the things that we've added just recently with the Church of Jesus Christ is Sundays lesson plan, which is Come Follow Me. We have a Come Follow Me companion that is part of that synchronizes with the lessons that are the Sunday lessons for Come Follow Me. And this is a vast website. It's called The Family History Guide. It's the FH Guide. It's THEFHGUIDE.com. And it's free, totally free. It's supported by a 501c3 tax-exempt charitable institution called the Family History Guide Association. And that's what we're associated with. That's the major website that we're working.
And where can people follow your blogs?
I have 3 blogs, 2 that are active. Genealogy Star, which is on Blogspot, and I don't need to give you the address. All you have to type in is James Tanner Genealogy, and you will get thousands of references to the websites.
Right,
okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. At last count, I have the total number of blog posts I have posted is somewhere around 11,200 growing every day,
Absolutely.
and so they're everywhere. The other blog that's Genealogy Star. That's a general, mostly technology oriented, but also everything else you can imagine about genealogy. And then I have another blog called Rejoice and Be Exceeding Glad, and that is aimed at those 2 people who are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that has a lot of stuff. That's where most of the stuff goes for Family Search. So if I talk about Family Search or the partners, then it's going into that blog. The third blog is called Walking Arizona. I'm a professional photographer is one of the extra things that I've done. And that basically is just my photos that I take and then any comments I have about the place or the items.
Perfect. If you have any further questions for James, be sure and put them in the comment section of the video. Even if you disagree, we can have a fun discussion there in the comment section. I'll be sure to put all of the links to his websites, including the Family History Guide, in the description, so you'll want to check that as well. Thanks, James.
Thanks.